So what is the fear of the Lord? I actually get this question quite a bit and it comes up in conversation. So I wanted to give my best definition and some scriptural uses for how we see this. My simple definition of the fear of the Lord is man's response in understanding who God is. When we understand who God truly is, our human response is the fear of the Lord. Proverbs 1 verse 7 says, "Fear of the Lord is the foundation of true knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and discipline." The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. I believe that's true because when we understand God for who he truly is, we begin to understand the world for what it truly is. And so to have a correct perspective of God leads to having a correct perspective of the rest of the world. And that's wisdom. This term fear of the Lord can be confusing because we hear verses like in 2 Timothy where Paul tells Timothy, he has not given us a spirit of fear, but of love, power, and a sound mind. What's the difference between this fear in 2 Timothy that Paul's talking about versus the fear of the Lord? Well, while they may have similar responses, the motive is completely different. Psalm 2:11 says, "Serve the Lord in reverent fear and rejoice in trembling." Well, how are we supposed to do that? The difference between this worldly fear, whether it's the fear of man or the fear of the enemy, versus the fear of the Lord, when we know God for who he truly is, we know that he is good. I believe his goodness is the difference. Paul says in Romans that his goodness and kindness is what leads us to repentance. Whereas the fear of man and the fear of the enemy, we know those things aren't good. So on the other side of that fear is destruction. The other side of the fear of the Lord is blessing and wisdom. Job is probably one of the best examples I can give of demonstrating the fear of the Lord. The Lord answered Job from the whirlwind. "Who is this that questions my wisdom with such ignorant words? Brace yourself like a man, because I have some questions for you and you must answer them. Where were you when I laid the foundations of the earth? Tell me if you know so much. Who determined its dimensions and stretched out the surveying line? What supports its foundation and who laid its cornerstone? As the morning stars sang together and all the angels shouted for joy." God goes on a roast for a couple chapters, but I want you to see Job's response to this. The Lord said to Job, "Do you still want to argue with the Almighty? You are God's critic, but do you have the answers?" Then Job replied to the Lord, "I am nothing. How could I ever find the answers? I will cover my mouth with my hand. I have said too much already. I have nothing more to say." Then God roasts him again. Then Job replied to the Lord, "I know that you can do anything, and no one can stop you. You asked, 'Who is this that questions my wisdom with such ignorance?' It is I, and I was talking about things I knew nothing about, things far too wonderful for me. You said, 'Listen and I will speak. I have some questions for you and you must answer them.' I had only heard about you before, but now I have seen you with my own eyes. I take back everything I said and I sit in dust and ashes to show my repentance." This is Job expressing the fear of the Lord that he has after God has revealed who he is. Fear of the Lord is knowing that God is the one who gave you the very breath in your lungs. And if he so wanted to, he could eliminate all the breath, all the oxygen in the world, and no one would survive. But it's also knowing that he is good enough, that he gives you every breath. I love you, and remember, stay tethered to Jesus.